Frida, a manicurist, happened to come across a video in which billionaire Slater King apologizes for his inappropriate behavior. He had purchased an island where he now tries to live a simple and virtuous life. Today, Slater King is hosting a charity banquet. Along with her friend Jess, Frida will be working as a waitress at the event. A year ago, Frida even managed to have a conversation with the billionaire. She is obsessed with Slater. The two friends decided to take a risk. They dressed up in evening gowns and pretended to be guests. Frida isn't very good at walking in heels. She headed towards Slater and fell, knocking over a waiter in the process. But the incident caught the billionaire's attention, and he helped the clumsy guest to her feet. Slater then got distracted by his psychotherapist, Dr. Stein. The businessman introduced the girls to his friends, many of whom were also celebrities and wealthy individuals. Frida had a great time in the lively crowd, and Slater couldn't take his eyes off her. But then his assistant reminded him that it was time to head to the island. Neither he nor Frida wanted to part ways, so Slater suddenly invited both Frida and Jess to join him. The entire group boarded a plane and headed off for a vacation on a luxurious villa. Slater's assistant, Stacy, collected everyone's phones. Slater personally escorted Frida to her room. On the sink, she found a bottle of perfume and sprayed it on herself. In the drawer was an old lip gloss, which she tossed into the trash. An elderly woman then entered the room and, for some reason, called Frida Red Rabbit. All the women were given identical outfits that fit them perfectly. People kept borrowing Jess's lighter, and Slater never put down his e-cigarette. Sarah climbed a palm tree. She had been on a reality show about surviving on a desert island. Although she came with Cody, she constantly flirts with the billionaire. But once again, Frida catches Slater's attention after nearly choking on a berry. The perfume was made from the flowers of the Desideria plant, which only grows on this island. The strange woman works on Snakecatcher Island. Slater explains that it's home to eyelash vipers. He feels sorry for killing them, but they can be dangerous. Stacy ran past and dropped a bundle of red gift bags. For some reason, the evening gowns given to all the women were identical. Cody, a famous chef, prepared a gourmet meal for the guests. However, the overweight Tom only eats eggs for dinner in an effort to lose weight, and Slater avoids red meat. Clumsy Frida spilled red wine on her dress. When Vic began to speak, everyone noticed that he was missing a pinky finger. The dinner ended with the group indulging in illegal substances. As the lost rich people and their guests sprawled across the lawn, security guard Stan kept an eye on them. When Frida lay down in bed, she noticed that the stain on her dress had somehow disappeared. She couldn't stop thinking about the old woman who was collecting snakes. Each new day was the same as the last. During the day, the group lounged by the pool or sweated in the sauna, and by evening, under the influence of substances, they descended into madness. They drank constantly, ate well, and didn't give a second thought to real life. No one knew how much time had passed. Every day, Frida sprayed herself with Desideria. One day, Slater asked her how she got the scar on her temple, but she had no idea. They clearly liked each other. It seemed Frida wouldn't have minded if Slater kissed her. But suddenly, the man told her he had to go to bed. He had a therapy session the next day. Frida still had Slater's vape. In the morning, she noticed that somehow there was dirt under her nails. She went to Slater to return the vape. Just then, Dr. Stein entered the room. For some reason, the therapist tensed up when Frida said she remembered him. He had been at the party. He was given his phone back, along with some kind of gift placed in one of those red bags. Jess barely found her lighter, and Cody had lost his special Japanese knife and couldn't find it anywhere. Frida kept spending time with Slater. She couldn't remember what day it was or when she would be going home. Jess was slowly developing paranoia. In the evening, someone stole her lighter again. That night, everything was as usual. Everyone was drinking and dancing when suddenly a scream rang out. Jess had been bitten by a snake. Slater killed the viper, and Vic took a picture. He was constantly photographing everything with his Polaroid. Jess immediately wanted to go home. She was frightened to stay there. Something felt wrong about the place. The others kept partying, while Jess started having a nosebleed. The next day started like any other for Frida, but then she saw a red bag on the ground and entered a bungalow. On the shelves were dozens of such bags. In another room, there was the old woman. A worker offered Frida a green liquid from a bottle. Only later did she realize it was disgusting. the venom of the killed viper. Frida got scared and ran outside. Cody was catching the chickens that had escaped their cage that day. In the evening, all the women were suddenly running somewhere, but then they stopped and wondered, why were they even running? Frida had a dream about her friend, who told her to hide the knife. There was dirt under her nails again, and all the women looked tired and messy. Lucas had a black eye, and Sarah had one on her arm. That day, the men went fishing, and the women stayed by the pool to relax. Suddenly, after a whole day had passed, Frida remembered Jess. She asked the other women where her friend was, but no one remembered any Jess. Her room had turned into a storage closet. Frida panicked. She hit the mirror and behind it found that very same knife. Sarah came to Frida. She almost believed there had been someone named Jess. The woman had signed her lighter, after all. Sarah kind of liked it here, and kind of didn't. Where had the bruises come from? And the dirt under their nails? They never should have gotten on that plane with a bunch of strange men. Sarah had only met Cody the day before the banquet, and the other girls didn't know anyone either. She believed they were being controlled, made to seem crazy. Somehow they had managed to make the women forget everything. But how? Inside all the red gift bags were perfume bottles. What had they done to them before erasing their memories? Sarah didn't understand why Frida remembered her friend, while she couldn't recall her at all. Maybe it was the snake venom that triggered the memories. Sarah immediately took a sip from the bottle. Now they needed to somehow make Heather and Camilla drink that nasty stuff. Over the past few days, the girls had gotten used to drinking everything without hesitation, so they thought nothing of it and poured the green liquid down their throats. Assistant Stacy didn't refuse the offer to drink it either. The men would be back from fishing soon, but in the meantime, Frida would try to get hold of a phone. She had seen where Stacy was hiding them. Suddenly, Sarah's nose started bleeding. Her memory was coming back, and the memories sent her into shock. When Cody tried to scare her, she smashed her elbow into him with full force. Frida managed to break the lock and open the cabinet, but unfortunately, there was no signal on the island. Suddenly, Sarah screamed at the top of her lungs, signaling to Frida that Slater was coming her way. Among the items, she found a bunch of photos. They showed young women and old men with red bags. Frida kept a couple of the photos for herself. She managed to hide under the table and went unnoticed. Her nose started bleeding too. Frida remembered how she and the other girls had been tied up and thrown to the floor, and how Slater had snapped Jesse's neck because she remembered everything after the snake bite. Frida had to return to the group and pretend like nothing had happened, just like Sarah was doing. Both of them were barely holding back tears. Sooner or later, Heather and Camilla's memories would return, but for now, the girls had to keep pretending that nothing had changed. During dinner, Frida remembered another night. Each man picked a victim and did whatever he wanted with her. Only the guy named Lucas refused to participate, which earned him a black eye. Frida herself caught the attention of Dr. Stein. He was warned not to leave any marks. To these monsters, the girls were nothing but pieces of meat. By the way, Lucas also had his memory wiped every night. It was hard for Sarah to keep playing her role. Frida flinched when the killer took her hand. She and Sarah said they wanted to dance. They managed to snatch a few objects for self-defense. For example, Sarah took a corkscrew and hid it in a flower bed. The entire group joined the dance. Camilla went to the bar to pour herself a drink, and at that moment, everything came back to her. She was furious. Right next to her was an ice pick, which Camilla used to stab the fat guy, Tom. He was the one who abused her night after night. Sarah finally got her revenge on Cody by stabbing his hand with the corkscrew. Heather chased after the photographer, Vic. They used to play chess together during the day, so she used a chessboard to smash his skull. But then she was shot by the security guard, a former Marine named Ten. He then went after Frida. The girl tried to hide in the forest, but the professional found her right away. He was about to execute Frida when Sarah appeared behind him with a huge rock, and that rock turned out to be tougher than Stan's head. Vic didn't die, but was left paralyzed. And only Lucas had no idea what was going on. On the floor lay Camilla, tied up. Slater had killed her by crushing her throat. He ordered Cody to take care of the rest. Blood started flowing from Stacy's nose too, but she was fine with everything. The woman pounced on Frida, but Frida stabbed her with a chef's knife. At the same time, Sarah shot Cody. Lucas was upset, thinking he had done something wrong too, but he had done nothing at all. He didn't even try to help the girls. In Slater's opinion, there's a special corner of hell for men like that. Frida saw herself in one of the photographs, with long hair and a red rabbit painted on her nails. She had been here before. She began banging on Slater's door, pretending she needed help. Lucas decided he would finally do something right and ran to the door, but Sarah shot him immediately. As for Frida, Slater dragged her into the house. She hit him with a statuette, but the bastard managed to knock her out by slamming her head against the floor. That lip gloss in the drawer had been hers. She got the scar on her temple here, from hitting her head on a rock. A year ago, they had already done all kinds of twisted things to her, but afterwards she had forgotten everything. By the way, it was Frida who bit off Vic's pinky finger. She found a shard and started cutting through the rope Slater had tied her with. The man confessed that the idea came to him when he thought about his sister. She still sees therapists because she remembers what one of their relatives did to them when they were kids. But he remembers nothing and continues to speak to that man like nothing happened. People are only free when they forget the bad. Sarah had run out of bullets. Slater realized it, left his vape on the table, and ran after her. He caught up to Sarah, tied her up, and threw her to the floor. Frida managed to free herself and grabbed a knife, but Slater easily took it away from her. The sick pervert took a puff and was about to slit Sarah's throat, but suddenly stopped. He couldn't understand what was going on, why there were injured and dead people all around him. Slater accidentally knocked over some candles, and the house caught fire. That was Frida's doing. She had filled the vape with Desideria perfume. Slater instantly forgot everything that had happened that day. The spoiled rich boy tripped over a corpse and hit his head on a table, losing consciousness. The house burned to the ground. Frida saved her new friend Sarah and Slater too because she had some plans for him. Sometime later, Slater hosted another banquet, but now he seemed timid and lost. Frida constantly erases his memory, forces him to be obedient and eat red meat. She even married Slater and made herself the CEO of his company. That's where the movie ends. Let us know in the comments, did you enjoy this story?